Welcome to That's the Word, wholesome tales for the whole family. I'm Father James Yamauchi. Today's story, Fancy Meeting You Here. The old fugitive hurried briskly through the countryside in the early dawn hours. The authorities had their eye on him, and the last thing he needed was to aggravate the already tense situation. If he remained in the city, he would inevitably be apprehended. By relocating, the fugitive could continue to advance his criminal enterprise. This was not the fugitive's first brush with the authorities. He had already busted out of prison once before. The fugitive was ever attentive to the sounds around him. The usually busy road was still as the sun rose over the horizon. Even though he was getting advanced in years, the fugitive was making good progress. As the fugitive continued his journey further into the countryside, the immediate danger was evaporating. He breathed a sigh of relief. Now he could plan his next move. His policy was that he would visit any town or region that would harbor him. His international organization would continue to grow and flourish, despite the government's best efforts to squash it. Amidst all the adrenaline, the fugitive could not ignore a tug in his heart. Was he making the right decision? Was it truly best for him to flee? He pushed back these emotions. He did not have time to deal with his conscience and his fear. Suddenly, the fugitive became apprehensive. There was a figure up ahead, advancing toward him. The fugitive knew that it was best to remain as calm and unsuspicious as possible. He did not want to invite any attention to himself. The two men walked closer and closer to each other. The fugitive could not help taking a quick glance at the figure. He looked up briefly, then stopped in his tracks. He recognized this man who was walking toward him. They were close friends who had not seen each other in years. Indeed, it was this very man who introduced the fugitive to life outside the law. Still shocked, the fugitive asked his friend where he was heading. The fugitive found himself returning alone to the city from which he was fleeing. He soon was apprehended by the authorities, brought to trial, and condemned to death, thanks to a conversation on a country road. when the fugitive had asked his friend where he was going, the friend told him he was going to Rome to be crucified again. It is this statement that gave the fugitive the courage to turn and face his martyrdom. This is the story, based on tradition, of two friends whose conversation would lead to the fulfillment of the prophecy given to the fugitive years ago. When you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and another will gird you and carry you where you do not wish to go. A meeting that occurred along the famous Appian Way between the risen Christ and his first vicar of the church, the fugitive who was fleeing the city of Rome, Saint Peter. And for this week, that's the word. John Peter, this is another story that I wonder, why did it take us so long to tell this particular one? It's such a rich story that is in the tradition of the church. And it is your patron saint. What's interesting is the chapel that is erected on the spot where this meeting between our Lord and St. Peter takes place is literally off the main road. And it's something that you can just pass by easily and not notice the significance of it. It is near the catacombs of St. Sebastian. And I believe there's a sign. Was there a sign? I think there's a brief sign, but that's pretty much it. But if you're not there looking at it, you can just say, oh, that's just another building.
It's very well disguised, highly camouflaged.
Which I think is very appropriate, actually. One thing I've always been touched about this story of St. Peter is whatever was going through his mind as he was fleeing the city of Rome, he still had the wherewithal to recognize Christ on the road and ask him the question and follow our Lord. And I think there's something to that about our lives as well. Personally, I can see St. Peter saying, I really don't want to ask because I know what he's going to say. Maybe not verbatim, but I know what he's going to ask of me. And this shows his love for the Lord. He just couldn't help but speak to him.
Now, it just so happens we also have a relic from this meeting. It's not at the chapel. There's a copy in that chapel, but in the Church of San Sebastian nearby, there are Christ's footprints, which were embedded in the rock on which he stood at this meeting.
Now it's trivia time.
Da, 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 da. We got some feedback on the way we were doing trivia before, so we're changing it up a bit. Let us know what you think of this new format.
So the last story's trivia question was,
where on the moon did Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin land?
And the answer is
the Sea of Tranquility.
This story's trivia question is,
when they met on the Appian Way, what exactly did St. Peter ask our Lord? That question again. When they met on the Appian Way, what exactly did St. Peter ask our Lord?
And a hint to the answer is that the phrase is in Latin. If you think you know the answer, email us or contact us on our social links and let us know.
If you enjoy That's the Word, please share the word. You can see the story extras for this story, Fancy Meeting You Here, at thunderrock.org, where you can see the footprints our Lord left when he appeared to Peter. Thunderrock.org is also where you can sign up for our weekly newsletter and where you can find our social links and our email if you have any feedback or story ideas.
Thanks for listening, and join us next Wednesday for another wholesome tale for the whole family.